So when it comes to Pokemon news, there really hasn't been anything super crazy that's been happening recently, as we just had the Teal Mask DLC come out for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and we still have the second part with the Indigo Disc slated to come out sometime in the winter of this year. And so of course, with the DLC being like the main focus of Pokemon content this year when it comes to video games, there really isn't like a ton of new trailers or lots of new things to talk about, but now it seems like we might have some actual information about exactly what the next Pokemon games are going to be that are going to be coming out next year in 2024. Now this information is coming from credible insiders and leakers such as Riddler Khu, who if you don't know by now is pretty much the most accurate leaker that we've had when it comes to Pokemon stuff. He knows his stuff when it comes to anime, the video games, and pretty much everything, and he's been leaking a lot of stuff for like the last few years when it comes to stuff about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and also the DLC. So if he's gotten all of this stuff correct completely for the last few years, it wouldn't surprise me that he probably knows some stuff about next year's game as well. Now when speculating what's next for Pokemon after the Indigo Disc wraps up the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, I think that pretty much everyone can agree that it's still a little bit too early to move on to like Generation 10 with a whole new generation of Pokemon and having new starters and a new region and all of that, so it really kind of makes you wonder what they would do for their next game. And really the two big signs that we have for what people think the next games are going to be are some people who think that it's going to have something to do with Johto, where maybe we could see like a Pokemon Let's Go Johto style type of game and we're going to go back to Gen 2, and then some people who think that it's going to have something to do with Gen 5 and we're going to see something with Pokemon Black and White. And just going off of what the credible insiders like Riddler Khu have been teasing, it definitely seems like there's more stuff that's pointing towards it being Unova and Gen 5 related, so now we've got a big discussion about exactly what this is going to be. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the previous hints and teases about the Unova games and what could be happening next year. I've already made videos about that, so if you haven't seen those videos, I'll have like a little playlist for the 2024 games up in the corner right now, and I'll have the videos in the outro, so you can definitely go ahead and check them out after you're done watching this video. But this is going to be about all the new information that we have about these games, which has come out in the last few days. Alright, so the very first thing that Riddler Khu tweeted, supposedly about next year's Pokemon games, is this message right here, where if we click the translate button, it translates to original soup, original taste. And there's a lot of different speculation theories that are going on about exactly what he means by this, and it seems like the one that people are kind of saying is that maybe it's going to be like some type of original faithful remake, kind of like Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where maybe when he says here like original soup, he means like the original Black and White, and it's still going to have like that original taste when you play through the new games, like the remakes. Like, I guess that would kind of make sense because Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was kind of like that, where it was the original games, it was just like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and it was still the original taste when you played them, where it was literally just the exact same games on the DS, just now made for the Nintendo Switch in HD. So maybe it is going to be like that, where it's going to be the exact same original Black and White games, but now just on the Nintendo Switch. Now the next piece of information that we got was this image right here. Now at first when you take a look at this, you're wondering like, what does this represent? Like, I have no idea what this means, and it took some people a little bit of time to figure out exactly what this image was referring to as well, where somebody finally managed to crack the puzzle, where it turns out that this is actually an image that comes from a QR code from the 3DS Pokédex Pro app, or if you remember that, there was like a Pokédex app on the 3DS where you could just like look through Pokemon with like pretty models on it, and it turns out if you actually go to the page with Dino from the Unova games, if you take a look at the QR code that it gives you for that Pokemon, it matches up perfectly with what Riddler Khu has tweeted. And then finally, the last hint that he gave us was this image right here, which is obviously a Pokemon's footprint, so this shouldn't be that difficult to find, right? We're just going to look through every single Pokemon's footprint and find one that makes a match with this image, and sure enough, somebody managed to do that, where they found out that this image is actually the footprint of the Pokemon Doduo. Now, it's a little bit funny because this image is actually from the Pokedex description for this Pokemon in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So could it be that this is like another hint that it's going to be somewhat BDSP related when it comes to the Unova games, or does it have something to do with the Pokemon itself? That's what we're going to be talking about now, because obviously now we have both of these Pokemon, Dino and Doduo. So what exactly is going to be the relationship with these two Pokemon? Some people think that it's possible that maybe these aren't even hints for exactly what's going to happen with the Unova games or the next Pokemon games, but maybe something to do with the Indigo Disc, where maybe Doduo and Dino are going to be getting like new forms or new evolutions or something, like how we had Pokemon Pokemon like Ursaluna get a new form inside of the teal mask. So maybe it could be something like that, or maybe it could be referring to the next games. Now, my favorite theory or speculation involving both of these Pokemon by far is what somebody said right here, where they said, if we take a look at the Pokemon Doduo and Dino, what do they both evolve into with their final evolutions? It actually ends up being Pokemon with 3 heads. Doduo evolves into Dodrio, which has 3 heads, and Dino evolves into Hydreigon, which also has 3 heads. So could it be possible that maybe this is a hint involving something with 3 heads? And now I've got this amazing theory that somebody had here, where they're saying, what if it means that the original dragon from Unova is going to have 3 heads on it? And that honestly sounds crazy, because of course, we know the story from Unova about the original dragon in Pokemon Black and White was that there was an original dragon, which then later split into the 3 different dragons that we have, being Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem. But what if it actually meant that the original dragon itself had 3 heads to begin with? Like, you had part of Zekrom and part of Reshiram and part of Kyurem as 3 different heads already on this one body, and then that's what split up into the 3 different forms. Like, that sounds so exciting to even think about, because of course we've seen a lot of like fan art and speculation about what people imagine this original dragon looks like, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody really draw it with 3 heads. And the whole idea of that actually happening sounds so cool. Now, the biggest piece of information that we have is actually something that Riddler Khu tweeted just yesterday, where he says right here, breaking, Chinese uncle has leaked. So this is actually referring to one of those Chinese Riddlers and insiders that we have when it comes to those Chinese forums, as we also have credible leakers from there who have leaked a lot of stuff like during Pokemon Sun and Moon's hype season and other stuff, but they don't really talk as much as like Riddler Khu does. And so I'm sure he also keeps track of what those people are saying as well. And so I guess here he's actually found somebody who said something real in terms of like actual information, and he's just sharing that with everybody here. So he's not even trying to make this like a riddle or a tease or anything. He's just straight up saying here, like, breaking news, here is something that has been leaked from a Chinese leaker. And so we have this image right here where it's actually somebody that said something in regards to another comment that was displayed down here. So if we actually take a look at this very first message, it translates to, that's just one of them, it doesn't mean both are like this. So now you're wondering, well, what is he referring to? And that's actually referring to a comment that was made by this person, Batman, with a leaf emoji here, where he was basically saying this first thing right here that says, what are the 2 models? And then for that, we have another reply from him right here, where he says here, on Black and White, original and paradoxical. And now, after all of this information, it sounds like we might finally be onto something, as it seems like they were talking about 2 different models being 2 different games, and that makes it seem like it's going to be very similar to exactly what they did with Gen 4 and Sinnoh, as we had the Sinnoh remakes that came out with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which was like your traditional faithful remakes, and that's probably referring to what like Riddler Khu was even teasing with the whole original soup, original flavor. It's going to be like your traditional remakes of Pokemon Black and White. And then there's probably going to be like another game that's going to be like that more creative and unique game, probably made by Game Freak, like Pokemon Legends Arceus, but it's going to be some type of paradoxical game, which is also matching with a lot of the other leaks and teases that we've had, which I've made videos about in the past, that it's going to be some type of futuristic Unova game, and it's not going to be just like set in typical Unova like how we have in Pokemon Black and White, and probably not even in the past like Pokemon Legends Arceus, but in the future, where it's going to be like a Paradox Unova with maybe different futuristic Pokemon and forms and stuff, and maybe it's going to be much more civilized, which honestly sounds really, really cool. Riddler Khu was even teasing earlier that there was going to be a lot of hints for the next Pokemon game found inside of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, and it definitely seems like they've already kind of been pandering a lot to Unova, as we basically got to see that one of the characters that's going to be appearing in the Indigo Disc seems to be resembling Drayden in terms of how they look, and they're using Dragon Pokemon, but then we also have like this Pokemon that's like a drawbridge with the new form of Duraludon, and that also seems like it's referring to one of the like Sky and Aero bridges from the Unova region. So I don't know, it definitely seems like there's a lot of Unova teases. Even in the teal mask, they mentioned the Unova region as like one of the schools that they were talking about. So yeah, it definitely does seem like they're kind of sprinkling in a lot of Unova teases lately. Now, my only wish that I have for like the faithful traditional Unova remakes is that if they try to have Ilka make them again, I really hope that they don't go for like that top-down chibi type of art style again like BDSP, but instead actually try to have like an actual 3D game where you can move around with the camera and actually be able to like look up and see all of the different buildings in Castelia City and all of that, because I feel like a traditional remake like that would be very nice. But if they do want to keep it 2D, I really hope that they try to make it more like a sprite-based HD 2D type of art style, as I feel like that would make a lot more sense for Unova, because the sprite art style for Unova is definitely where kind of sprite Pokemon peaked, as you have like the animated sprites and you have all the different attacks and the dynamic camera and everything. It just looks really, really good for the DS. Honestly, Pokemon Black and White was one of the best looking DS games of all time in my opinion. So I really do think that if they tried to make like a 2D remake, having an HD 2D type of style like what you see with Octopath Traveler and some of those other Square Enix games would look really nice with a Unova game with Pokemon Black and White. But yeah, just looking at all the information that we have right now and putting all the pieces together, it definitely does seem like that they are pointing towards some type of Gen 5 game or Unova game potentially coming out next year, which honestly does sound so crazy because pretty much anytime Game Freak has gone back to a generation or like another previous region, it's always been a good amount of time since the last time they've done it, where like when the first remakes happened with like Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green in 2004, it took them 5 years to make Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver with Gen 2, another 5 years to make Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire with Gen 3, and then 7 years to make Pokemon BDSP with Gen 4. So the fact that they could be just going 3 years later in 2024 to Pokemon Black and White remakes sounds really insane, but who knows, maybe they actually are going to do it. It definitely does seem like it with all the information that we have right now. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel as well, as I'm going to be talking more about the next Pokemon games as more information comes out. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about all of this. How would you guys feel if we are going to be going back to the Unova region next year with the next main series Pokemon games? How do you feel if it's going to be like two different things again, where it's going to be like a more traditional remake and then also having like this paradox futuristic Unova type of game as well? Would that make you pretty excited? Definitely be sure to let me know how you feel. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.